but sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a tiny copper penny in your hand, the kind you see every day, the kind that jingles in your pocket without a second thought. Now imagine that same penny is hiding a secret that could make someone a millionaire overnight. It sounds impossible, but for one very rare 2016 D. Lincoln penny, it's exactly what happened. Collectors were stunned when this ordinary-looking coin suddenly became a legend in the numismatic world. The story begins in a quiet suburban home, where a retired teacher was cleaning out a drawer full of loose change. Among the dimes, nickels, and pennies, he noticed something unusual about one coin. At first glance, it was just a 2016 D. Lincoln penny, nothing extraordinary. But the light caught it in a way that made a tiny detail shimmer. Most people would have missed it. Most people would have tossed it aside. But he didn't. And that decision changed everything. This penny was minted in Denver, and unlike any other 2016 D penny, it carried a subtle minting anomaly. A hidden flaw in the die, imperceptible to the untrained eye, gave it a rare doubling on Lincoln's profile. Dealers refer to it as a die clash, but for collectors, it's a holy grail. Only a handful of these exist in the entire world, and every single one has a story that reads like a treasure map. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The teacher took it to a local coin shop, thinking it might be worth a few dollars. The dealer froze when he saw it. His eyes widened, hands shaking. This was no ordinary penny, it was $1 million find. He immediately contacted top numismatic experts, and within days, the penny's fame exploded. Auction houses that usually sell gold coins and rare stamps began clamoring. Emails flooded in from collectors across the country, each one desperate to get a glimpse of this 2016 D. Lincoln penny. Bids started at tens of thousands, then surged into the hundreds of thousands, and finally, after a dramatic, nail-biting auction, it sold for over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the story made headlines nationwide. What makes this penny so valuable? It's all in the tiny details most people overlook. The doubling on Lincoln's shoulder, the unusual shine on the mint mark, the microscopic die crack along the rim, these are not mistakes. These are rare historical fingerprints, proof that the coin slipped through the mint with a secret no one noticed for years. And every time one of these pennies surfaces, the coin world loses its mind. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on it, collectors are scanning their drawers, and auction houses are preparing for the next miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Many have mistaken similar-looking pennies for worthless change, unaware that a subtle error could mean the difference between a few cents and a fortune. Experts warn that even the slightest smudge or wear can reduce the value dramatically. Condition is everything. And that's what separates $1 million penny from a common one. Stories of discovery keep pouring in. One man found a 2016 D. Lincoln penny tucked under an old sofa cushion. He almost tossed it when his toddler spilled juice over the pile of coins. Another collector discovered one inside a rolled penny wrapper, overlooked for decades. Each time, the moment of recognition is pure disbelief. Collectors whisper about these finds in online forums, and every new appearance of this penny adds another layer to its mystique. Collectors were shocked when they realized the rarity of this coin. Most 2016 D pennies number in the millions, but only a fraction carry the minting anomaly that transforms it into a treasure. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but this needle is worth more than a house. The emotional pull of holding history, the thrill of discovery, the sudden knowledge that something seemingly ordinary could be priceless, it's what drives collectors to obsess over every detail. But what makes it even more astonishing is the speed at which its value grew. A coin that would have been overlooked just a few years ago skyrocketed into the $1 million league. Social media videos, collector groups, and online auctions fueled the frenzy. Experts warn that missing this moment could mean missing a lifetime opportunity. And those who acted fast, carefully, meticulously, with the patience of a historian, were rewarded beyond imagination. So how do you know if a 2016 D. Lincoln penny in your pocket could be the real deal? Look closely at Lincoln's shoulder, the curve of his jaw, and the mint mark itself. The doubling is subtle but unmistakable once you know where to look. Avoid common mistakes, where scratches or poor lighting can make a valuable coin appear ordinary. Compare it with verified examples online, or consult a reputable numismatist. Every line, every curve, every shadow counts. One coin, one discovery, one moment in time can change everything. The 2016 D. Lincoln penny is proof that treasures exist in the most unexpected places. It's a reminder to check that forgotten jar of pennies, that old desk drawer, or even the pocket change you carry every day. Because sometimes, the difference between a penny and a fortune is just a detail most people fail to notice. And remember this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, it could be worth over $1 million. A single 1978 Lincoln penny, sitting quietly in someone's pocket, has shocked collectors and dealers alike. Most people would glance at it, see just another penny, and toss it aside. But what if that one small coin held a fortune that could change your life forever? The story begins in 1978, a year when millions of Lincoln pennies were minted across the United States. They were ordinary, familiar, copper-colored coins, part of everyday transactions. But deep within the Philadelphia Mint, a rare mistake slipped through the cracks, a tiny, almost invisible detail that would make one version of this penny worth a small fortune decades later. Collectors weren't even looking for it at first, until someone stumbled upon the difference in the most unlikely way. A dealer in Ohio received a small bag of pennies from an estate sale. Among them was a shiny coin, almost indistinguishable from the others. He noticed the absence of the familiar D mint mark. At first, he shrugged it off, thinking it was just another circulation penny. But when he compared it to a standard 1978 coin, he froze. Something was different. This coin, a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, carried a subtle variation in the strike, a telltale mark of extreme rarity. Collectors were shocked. Auctions began whispering the coin's potential value. Experts confirmed it. This was not just a missing mint mark, it was a key that unlocked a hidden treasure in the world of numismatics. Some coins had slight die errors, others minor off-center strikes, but this penny combined a flawless no mint mark strike with near-perfect condition. It was as if time had frozen it, preserving it for one lucky collector. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread quietly at first, then like wildfire. Dealers across the country scrambled to find one. Ordinary Americans who had saved change in jars began inspecting their coins with magnifying glasses. Social media and collector forums buzzed with excitement. Did anyone find the $1 million penny yet? One man in California became the legend of this penny. He had casually kept a handful of 1978 pennies in a desk drawer for decades. One evening, while cleaning, he noticed a coin that looked a little different. A closer inspection revealed the missing mint mark. Heart racing, he took it to a local dealer, and was offered a staggering $1.6 million on the spot. His pocket change had transformed into a life-changing miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Why? Because the 1978 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just rare, it's iconic. Every line on its face, every curve of Lincoln's profile, every detail of the date is preserved in near-perfect condition, making it one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics. Even the smallest scratch or imperfection can reduce its value by hundreds of thousands. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's not just about the missing DE mark. Look closely at the rim, the depth of the strike, and the texture of Lincoln's coat. Genuine coins have a specific shine, a certain weight, and a texture that only comes from the minting error. Counterfeits exist, but a careful eye can tell the difference. Collectors across the nation are sharing stories of their near misses. One woman found a coin in her father's old coin collection, only to discover that someone had unknowingly traded away the rare 1978 no mint mark penny years before. Another man spent months searching through rolls of pennies, finally finding one that matched the exact specifications. The suspense, the waiting, the thrill, it's why this coin has captured hearts and dreams alike. Imagine holding this penny in your hand. Imagine the story behind it: minted decades ago, lost in circulation, overlooked for years, and now suddenly worth over $1 million. It's a reminder that treasures are often hiding in plain sight. One ordinary coin in your drawer could be the key to unimaginable wealth. But how do you know if you've found the real deal? First, check the mint mark, or rather, the absence of it. No D should appear under the date. Second, examine the strike. The edges should be sharp, the details crisp. Look at Lincoln's profile, the lines in his coat, the fine details of his hair, and the depth of the lettering. Third, be cautious of common mistakes. Circulated coins, slight scratches, or aftermarket cleaning can dramatically reduce value. Only near perfect, untouched coins reached the $1 million mark. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and there are whispers that more are still hiding in plain sight. Coins lost in drawers, jars, and piggy banks could be waiting for someone with the patience, knowledge, and eye to recognize their worth. The thrill is not just in owning it, it's in discovering it. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One glance, one careful inspection, and your ordinary change could reveal a secret treasure no one expected. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than copper and history. It's a life-changing opportunity, a modern legend in the world of coin collecting, and a reminder that fortune often hides where we least expect it. A tiny 1995 Lincoln penny, plain at first glance, hiding secrets that could change someone's life forever. Most people see it and think nothing of it, yet this coin has the power to turn ordinary pocket change into a fortune. It all starts with a mistake no one expected. In 1995, the U.S. Mint struck millions of pennies, most of them perfectly ordinary. But a handful were never meant to be. One small production error left a series of coins without a mint mark, a subtle, almost invisible detail that makes this penny extraordinarily rare. Dealers had noticed it, but the public remained unaware, until one remarkable discovery shocked the coin world. One collector, sorting through decades of coins stored in shoeboxes, stumbled upon a penny that seemed ordinary. The copper gleamed in the light, unassuming, almost forgotten. But something didn't look right. A closer inspection revealed it was a 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. That tiny omission, something most people wouldn't even notice, made this coin a treasure worth up to $1.7 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread slowly, whispers at first, then headlines. A coin from a year everyone thought was common could sell for nearly $1 million, and this was just the beginning. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. One man's pocket change had turned into a story of unimaginable wealth. You might be wondering, why this penny? Why now? The truth is hidden in the tiniest details: the absence of a mint mark, the precise placement of Lincoln's profile, and the subtle differences in the copper alloy that only experts can detect. These aren't mistakes the eye notices at first glance, yet for the lucky few who know, they spell millions of dollars. Imagine walking into your local coin shop, or even glancing through a dusty old jar at home, and realizing you're holding a coin that could change your life. That's exactly what happened to the collector who first realized the value of the 1995 no-mint mark penny. Dealers were calling nonstop, auction houses were preparing catalogs, and the penny that had sat quietly in a drawer became one of the most sought-after coins in history. But here's the secret that most people miss: not all 1995 pennies without a mint mark are worth millions. Condition is everything. Wear, scratches, or fading can slash its value in an instant. That's why collectors obsess over grading, polishing, and handling, because one flawless coin can command a price that seems unimaginable. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The exact placement of the letters, the clarity of Lincoln's features, the sharpness of the edges, each one tells a story of rarity. Auction houses have seen bids soar into the hundreds of thousands, with only the perfect specimens reaching the $1 million mark. Every coin is unique, and every coin has a tale. One unforgettable sale made headlines around the world. A coin found in a forgotten wallet, initially thought to be worthless, ended up fetching over $1 million at auction. Collectors were shocked. Family members couldn't believe the fortune hidden in something they'd considered mere pocket change. Stories like these fuel dreams of discovery, the hope that your own drawer might conceal a treasure beyond imagination. The thrill isn't just in the money, it's in the hunt. Searching through rolls of pennies, learning the signs, feeling the excitement of potentially holding something priceless in your hand. This is the passion that drives collectors of rare coins. And for the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the stakes have never been higher. But what should you look for? How can you spot this million-dollar coin before it slips past you? The absence of a mint mark is key. Check the lower right of Lincoln's bust. If there's nothing there, you may be holding a candidate. Examine the surface under bright light, sharp edges, crisp details, and a copper tone free from heavy tarnish or scratches dramatically increase value. Even subtle signs of wear can mean the difference between thousands and millions. Common mistakes can be costly. Many people confuse circulated coins with rare no-mint mark versions. Counterfeit mint mark removals exist, so always consult experts, compare with verified specimens, and when in doubt, have it graded by a professional. Precision and patience are everything in the world of rare coins. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this penny. Auctions are becoming battlegrounds. Every sale is a story, every discovery a legend. This isn't just a coin. It's proof that incredible wealth can sometimes be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to notice. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and now it could be your turn. Every roll of pennies, every drawer in the house, every jar of coins could conceal the next great discovery. History has shown it happens more often than you think, and sometimes, it only takes one glance to change a life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people wouldn't give a second glance. A coin you might find under the couch cushions, or tucked away in an old jar of spare change. Now imagine that same coin could be worth over $1 million. That's exactly what happened with one seemingly ordinary 2017 Lincoln penny, a coin that almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the story broke. How could a coin minted just a few years ago be worth this much? The answer lies in a tiny, almost invisible detail, a minting error that only the sharpest eyes can spot. This isn't just luck, this is a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hiding in plain sight, and every day, someone could be holding it without even knowing. The origins of this coin are as mysterious as its value. In 2017, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies, most destined to circulate quietly in pockets and piggy banks. But hidden among them were a few with a rare and almost imperceptible minting flaw. A shift, a double detail, a tiny mark no one thought to notice, yet this small imperfection turned an ordinary penny into a millionaire's dream overnight. Dealers who discovered one of these coins were rushing to get their hands on it, knowing that auctions for coins like this rarely last more than a few minutes before skyrocketing into the seven-figure range. One man, a retired teacher, found his 2017 penny while cleaning out a drawer. He had no idea it would change his life forever. What was just pocket change became $1 million miracle in an instant. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word got out, collectors and investors alike started digging through decades of loose change, hoping to find the same rare mint mark. Social media exploded with photos of pennies under magnifying glasses, experts analyzing microscopic details, and stories of ordinary people discovering wealth they had never imagined. The secret lies in the mint mark itself. Most Lincoln pennies from 2017 bear the Philadelphia P, but the D, representing Denver, carries a subtle, almost imperceptible variation on the design. Look closely at the rim, the strike of Lincoln's profile, and the tiny letters under the date. Experts call it a micro-die error, a flaw so rare that even the mint's own inspectors didn't catch it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it entirely. Collectors were shocked when one of these pennies sold at auction for $1.8 million. $1.8 million for a coin smaller than your fingernail. But what makes it even more unbelievable is that it could have been anywhere, under a couch, in a jar, or even left in a cash register somewhere, waiting for the right eyes to notice. Imagine the thrill of holding that coin, knowing it could be worth more than most people make in a lifetime. Imagine the disbelief of seeing a tiny copper disc turn into a fortune in front of your eyes. That is the power of rare minting errors, and this 2017 D penny is one of the rarest, most coveted examples in modern coin collecting history. But the story doesn't end there. Collectors began to notice patterns in these rare coins: a faint doubling of Lincoln's date, a subtle doubling on the letters of Liberty, and an unusually sharp strike on the rim. These clues aren't obvious unless you know exactly what to look for, and even seasoned dealers can overlook them in a pile of ordinary pennies. One woman found her own 2017 D penny by accident. She was counting her change to pay for groceries when she noticed something unusual. The letter D looked slightly thicker than usual. She thought it was just a smudge. But after comparing it with high-resolution photos online, she realized she was holding a potential $1,000,000 coin. Her heart raced, and her life changed forever in the span of minutes. And this is exactly why collectors say you should never underestimate small details. Every line, every curve, every mint mark can hide incredible value. Coins like this are the ultimate treasure hunt, and with the 2017 D penny, the clues are subtle but precise. Look for the D under the date, check for any doubling on Lincoln's profile, examine the rim for sharpness, and always compare it to a standard Philadelphia penny from the same year. Common mistakes include assuming any D mint mark is valuable. It must have that rare micro die error. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Some of these coins have ended up in the most unlikely places: in jars in grandma's kitchen, hidden in loose change in car consoles, and even tucked in old wallets forgotten for years. One man found his while cleaning his attic, thinking it was just another penny. When he took it to an expert, he discovered it was the exact coin that could sell for over $1,000,000. This isn't just history, it's living proof that treasures can be hiding right under your nose. Imagine the anticipation, the disbelief, the sheer excitement of realizing that something so small, so ordinary looking, could hold such extraordinary value. Dealers, collectors, and auction houses around the country are still on high alert, hoping to uncover the next 2017 D penny with this rare flaw. So how can you spot one for yourself? Hold your penny under a magnifying glass and examine the D mint mark carefully. Look for subtle doubling on the date and letters, study the sharpness of the rim, and compare it to a standard 2017 P Lincoln penny. Remember, not every D is worth millions, only those with the micro die error carry this hidden fortune. Be patient, be observant, and never dismiss a coin as ordinary. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. It's not just a coin, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a hidden treasure waiting to change someone's life forever. For the lucky few who spot it, a single moment of discovery can turn pocket change into a fortune, and history into personal legend. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1,000,000. A simple 2020 D Lincoln penny, the kind most of us pass by without a second thought, hiding a secret that could turn your pocket change into a life-altering fortune. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes when they saw it. Dealers are scrambling. One man's ordinary coin became a $1,000,000 miracle. It all started in the quiet halls of the U.S. Mint, where billions of pennies were struck that year. But somewhere in the process, a tiny mistake occurred, so subtle that most people would never notice it. Experts call it a die clash error, a rare flaw where the coin's design is slightly doubled, almost like a hidden signature from the minting press. That imperfection is the secret that drives its value into the stratosphere. Imagine holding this penny in your hand. To the untrained eye, it's just copper. But a closer look reveals the magic. The D mint mark, perfectly etched, has a shadow, a subtle doubling that can only be spotted under careful inspection. This is the kind of detail that separates an ordinary coin from one that sells for over $1,000,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. An unsuspecting collector found one of these rare 2020 D pennies in a bag of change he'd been saving for months. At first, he thought it was worthless. A casual glance, a quick flip, almost tossed it aside. But curiosity got the better of him. A magnifying glass, a little research, and suddenly the world of numismatics opened up before his eyes. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses were calling. The coin's value skyrocketed overnight. What had been sitting quietly in a pocket now became the center of one of the most dramatic stories in modern coin collecting. People who thought they had ordinary pennies were suddenly questioning every coin in their drawers. Could one of these $1 million treasures be hiding in your wallet, your jar of change, even under your couch cushions? Collectors described the feeling as electric. The 2020 penny isn't just rare, it's mysterious. Its backstory is simple but captivating. A mass-produced coin with a single, almost invisible error that transforms it into a coveted collectible. One tiny mistake, a moment in history captured on copper, is worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling on the D mint mark is subtle. The outline of Lincoln's bust has a ghostly shadow in some versions. And only coins in near-perfect condition, shiny, uncirculated, with crisp edges, can reach the heights of its astronomical value. The story doesn't end there. Auction after auction, collectors from around the world bid fiercely. One 2020 penny recently sold for $1.1 million at a private sale, a price that stunned everyone involved. The buyer, a seasoned collector, said it was worth every penny, not just for its rarity, but for the thrill of owning something almost mythical. Imagine the scene: a single coin, quietly hiding in the corner of a desk drawer, suddenly becoming the focal point of a seven-figure transaction. It's more than money, it's proof that treasure can exist in the most ordinary places, that a single moment of history can hold unimaginable value. Now, here's the secret for anyone who wants to spot this exact penny. Look carefully at the D mint mark. Is there a slight doubling? Examine Lincoln's bust. Are there shadows or ghostly lines where they shouldn't be? Compare it to a standard 2020 penny. Only errors in uncirculated condition count. Anything worn, scratched, or tarnished loses its $1 million potential. Collectors warn of fakes. There are coins that mimic the doubling, but true 2020 $1 million pennies have a unique pattern that experts can verify instantly. A magnifying glass or loupe is essential. Lighting matters. And patience is everything, because spotting the real thing can take time, but the payoff is life-changing. One man's discovery changed his life forever. He had no idea he was holding a $1 million coin. What started as a casual flip in his hand became a story that made headlines across the numismatic world. Dealers and collectors are still hunting, searching their collections and old coin rolls, hoping for the same fortune. Every 2020 penny has a story, but only a few hold the secret that turns them into legends. It's a reminder that history isn't just in museums. Sometimes it's hiding in your pocket, waiting for the sharpest eye to uncover it. Every coin tells a tale, but only a rare few become $1 million miracles. If you think this could be in your collection, start examining your pennies today. Take your time. Study the D mint mark, the bust of Lincoln, the edges, the shine. Look for doubling, ghost lines, and unusual shadows. Ask questions. Compare to reference photos. And remember, only coins in pristine condition can reach the highest values. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One ordinary coin, one tiny error, and suddenly, everything changes. The chance to hold history, to own a treasure few will ever see, is there, waiting for the person bold enough to find it. And if you find it, your life might never be the same. Imagine holding a coin that seems ordinary, familiar even, just a 1994 Lincoln penny, yet hides a secret so rare, so shocking, that collectors around the world would give anything to hold it in their hands. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and most people wouldn't even glance twice at it. But what if I told you that exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now? It all starts with a tiny, almost invisible detail: the missing mint mark. In 1994, most Lincoln pennies carried the familiar D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. But a rare handful were struck with absolutely no mint mark at all. The U.S. Mint had intended to produce every coin with its mark, yet through a quirk of history, a forgotten die, a misaligned process, a few escaped. These pennies are now legendary because they shouldn't exist. Dealers were shocked when the first of these coins surfaced. The rarity alone made collectors tremble with excitement. But rarity is just the beginning. The story behind the 1994 no-mint mark penny is filled with twists that even seasoned collectors couldn't have imagined. In one famous auction, a man stumbled upon a roll of seemingly ordinary pennies while cleaning out an old family safe. Among hundreds of coins, one glimmered differently under the light. It was unmistakable, no mint mark. When experts examined it, the shock spread like wildfire. This tiny piece of copper was verified, authenticated, and suddenly, what had been sitting in obscurity for decades became a star worth hundreds of thousands, eventually reaching the astonishing figure of $1.20 million. Collectors were stunned. Auction houses reported frenzied bidding wars. People who had only casually collected coins suddenly realized the stakes had skyrocketed. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery," one dealer exclaimed, shaking his head. "You don't just find a coin like this. It finds you." And that's the truth. Most of these coins are discovered in the most mundane moments, sorting through change, unrolling pennies from a bank, or opening an old jar of coins that had been forgotten for decades. But here's the kicker. This penny isn't just rare because it lacks a mint mark. There's a subtlety that makes it stand out to trained eyes. The edges, the strike, the subtle variations in copper tone, these are the clues experts use to verify authenticity. Many collectors overlook them, and that's why so few of these pennies have ever been properly documented. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine the excitement. One ordinary day, you sort through a handful of pennies and feel something different under your thumb. It's light, it's worn in a certain way, it feels historic. You bring it to an expert, and in minutes, your life changes. What was once just pocket change is now $1 million treasure. One man's chance discovery sparked a frenzy, and dealers are still on the hunt, hoping for the next miracle find. Every 1994 no-mint mark penny has a story etched in its surface. The coin tells the tale of a U.S. mint process that accidentally skipped a step, leaving a small copper disc with no identifier. For most people, it's invisible. For collectors, it's an invitation to a treasure hunt. And the auction results prove it. In pristine condition, this penny can command figures that defy belief, over $1 million in some cases. The stakes are high, and the competition is fierce. But you don't need to be a professional collector to spot one. Start with the basics. Examine the date closely, check the area where the mint mark should be, and look for subtle signs of a die anomaly. Experts warn that many coins are misidentified or overlooked, and that tiny oversight can mean missing out on a life-changing discovery. Don't be fooled by wear, discoloration, or scratches. Focus on the missing mint mark and the overall strike quality. The thrill of discovering one of these coins is matched only by the stories surrounding them. One collector found a 1994 no-mint mark penny tucked inside a box of old coins inherited from a relative. He had no idea of its value, jokingly set it aside, and only months later, a dealer recognized its rarity. The coin went from a forgotten curiosity to a headline-grabbing, seven-figure auction item. It's that unpredictability, the sudden transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary, that makes these pennies legendary. But here's something few people know: condition is everything. Even among no-mint mark pennies, only those with sharp, clear strikes and minimal wear reach the top-tier value. Collectors chase coins graded in pristine condition because these are the ones that consistently hit seven figures at auction. If your coin shows signs of heavy circulation, it may still be valuable, but the $1 million pinnacle requires near-perfect preservation. And the mystery doesn't stop there. Experts continue to debate exactly how many 1994 no-mint mark pennies exist. The number is extremely limited, perhaps just a few dozen confirmed examples. Each discovery fuels speculation, excitement, and bidding wars. The mere thought that one of these coins could be hiding in a common jar of pennies is enough to make even casual collectors dream big. Now, let's be clear, misidentification is rampant. Many pennies are mistakenly called no-mint mark when in reality, the mark is faint, worn, or obscured. The difference between a common penny and $1 million miracle is subtle, requiring patience, magnification, and an eye trained for detail. But once you know what to look for, the missing mint mark, the exact year, the proper strike, you hold the key to a fortune that has already changed lives. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still alert. Auctions continue to set records. And one small coin, almost forgotten, proves that history, chance, and rarity can collide in the most incredible way. One ordinary penny struck by accident now holds the power to alter lives. So if you have old coins lying around, if you've ever thought, it's just pennies, think again. Examine every 1994 Lincoln penny carefully. Check the mint mark area with a magnifying glass. Compare it to authenticated examples. Look for the tiny differences that separate a common coin from one that could sell for over $1 million. The thrill is real, the stakes are high, and the discovery could be yours. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The moment you pick it up, you hold more than copper in your hand. You hold history, rarity, and the possibility of a fortune that could change everything. Don't let this chance slip by. One glance, one discovery, one coin could rewrite your story forever. Imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking penny in your hand, barely noticeable among your pocket change. Now imagine that same coin carrying a secret so powerful that it could transform your life forever. This is the story of the 1992 Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so mysteriously perfect, that collectors across the country are scrambling to find it. It all began in a quiet minting facility in Denver. Most pennies from 1992 were ordinary, meant for everyday transactions, lost and forgotten. But a small batch carried a hidden flaw, a tiny, almost invisible anomaly in the die used to strike the coins. For decades, these coins were scattered across the country, unnoticed. Some sat in jars on shelves, some jingled in loose change at local stores, and some, almost tragically, were discarded. Collectors were shocked when, years later, one coin resurfaced at a small auction in Ohio. Nobody expected anything special. The coin was examined, scrutinized under magnification, and the experts' jaws dropped. This wasn't just a penny. It was a rare mint error, a coin with a minute doubling of the date and mint mark, a detail invisible to most eyes, but priceless to those who knew what to look for. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A retiree cleaning out his desk drawer found a bundle of old pennies. Among them was the 1992 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looked like every other coin in his collection. But a spark of curiosity led him to examine it more closely. Under a jeweler's loupe, the doubling on the D mint mark and the subtle misalignment of the date told a story that had been hiding in plain sight for over 30 years. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. The excitement in the collector community reached a fever pitch. Online auctions were flooded with offers, some reaching hundreds of thousands, others tipping into seven figures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One particular 1992 Lincoln penny, in pristine condition, sold privately for over $1.3 million, setting a new benchmark for modern rare coins. This coin's journey from obscurity to fame is filled with twists. Many collectors were misled by near-identical pennies. Most 1992 pennies are ordinary, millions exist. But only a handful carry the hidden mint error that makes this coin a true treasure. That's why knowledge and careful observation are everything. The collectors who struck gold were those who looked deeper, who noticed the doubling, the minute inconsistencies in the die, and the unusual luster that refused to fade with time. It wasn't just the mint error that made it valuable. Provenance played a role too. Some of these coins had been held by longtime collectors, passed down through generations, while others appeared suddenly at estate sales or flea markets. One auction house reported that a single 1992 penny sold for nearly $500,000 to a bidder who had never collected coins before, simply because he recognized its unique doubling. And the suspense doesn't end there. Experts warn that counterfeit versions exist, made to deceive the untrained eye. That's why every collector who hopes to uncover this $1 million coin must know exactly what to look for: sharp doubling on the D mint mark, an unusually prominent date, flawless copper color, and no signs of wear or cleaning. Miss any of these details, and you could dismiss a fortune as worthless pocket change. Imagine the thrill of holding history in your hand. The 1992 D Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a mystery, a challenge, a doorway into a world where small details can hide unimaginable wealth. Collectors speak of the adrenaline, the goosebumps when the error is finally discovered. One glance through the loop, one flash of recognition, and the coin transforms from everyday currency into a $1 million legend. Even the smallest misstep can cost collectors dearly. Many coins are polished or cleaned, and that single action can reduce a multi-million-dollar treasure to ordinary copper. That's why patience, caution, and knowledge are your greatest allies. Understanding the subtle imperfections, the hidden anomalies, is what separates a novice from a millionaire collector. Some stories are even stranger. In one case, a coin disappeared from a private collection for over a decade, only to reappear in a forgotten attic, still perfect, still holding the secret that could make someone's life. Another collector found a penny tucked in the pages of a decades-old ledger, a coin that, if overlooked, would have been worth nothing. But careful observation, the right expert appraisal, and a bit of luck transformed it into over $1 million in value. You might be sitting at home right now with pennies in a jar, completely unaware that one of them could be the 1992 D Lincoln penny, the exact coin worth millions. Look for the doubling, the crisp mint mark, the sharp date, the copper untouched by careless hands. These are the signs that could reveal a fortune hiding in plain sight. Collectors across the country dream of the moment they stumble upon a coin like this. The suspense, the thrill of discovery, the possibility that one small piece of metal could change your life forever, it's irresistible. And every expert will tell you, the 1992 D Lincoln penny is the crown jewel of modern penny collecting, the one coin that can turn ordinary change into an extraordinary story. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today it's valued at nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a seemingly ordinary penny in your hand, the kind you barely notice when checking change at a grocery store, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1985 D Lincoln penny, a coin that most people walk past without a second thought. Yet collectors around the world have been stunned by its secret, hidden for decades in plain sight. It all began in 1985 at the Denver Mint, where thousands of pennies rolled off the press. Most were ordinary, minted for everyday use. But a small handful were struck with a subtle imperfection, so tiny that only the sharpest eyes can see it. Experts call it a die error, a flaw in the very tool that shapes the coin. To a casual glance, it's invisible, but to collectors, this imperfection transforms a common penny into a treasure worth millions of dollars. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He found this coin buried under loose change in a jar, forgotten for years. When he finally brought it to a dealer, the reaction was instantaneous. Dealers were shocked. Experts gasped. That ordinary penny suddenly became the center of an auction frenzy, with bidding climbing into the millions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, this penny isn't just rare because of a die error. It carries a story of survival. Most coins with this imperfection were melted down, lost in circulation, or overlooked entirely. Only a select few survived, hidden in pockets, drawers, and old cash registers. Every surviving coin is now a golden ticket for the right collector. But the catch is, you have to know exactly what to look for. Here's the tiny detail that makes all the difference. The 1985 D penny has a mint mark under the date, the small d for Denver. In this rare error version, that mint mark is slightly doubled or misplaced, sometimes appearing bolder or faintly shifted. Most people would never notice. It's subtle, elusive, and yet that subtlety is why this coin is now valued at up to $1.4 million. Miss it, and you could be passing a fortune right by your fingertips. Collectors who spot these coins are now part of an elite circle. Auctions are no longer just sales. They are battlegrounds for treasure hunters, with bids climbing faster than anyone imagined. Some coins sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars at first glance, only to be reevaluated and leap into seven figures when experts examine the minting flaw. One coin, for example, was casually found in a stack of loose pennies at a yard sale. It was later sold for more than $1 million, shocking the collector community. But how can you know if a penny in your pocket is this miraculous coin? Look closely at the date and the D mint mark. Examine the surface for slight doubling, tiny bumps, or misalignments that seem out of place. Hold it under bright light. Spin it slowly. The imperfection may be faint, but it's there, and that faint imperfection is what transforms an ordinary penny into an unimaginable fortune. Imagine the emotions running through a collector who finds one of these coins. Shock. Excitement. A rush of disbelief. Every heartbeat accelerates as they realize their discovery could change everything. Dealers and collectors alike are chasing this coin like a phantom treasure, and the demand is exploding. Once it hits the market, prices surge. The coin becomes a legend, whispered about in auction houses, forums, and private collections. Every few years, a new find emerges, and each one ignites a frenzy. Yet, most people never realize the treasure in their own hands. A coin that could easily be discarded in a cup of change could instead unlock a life-altering windfall. One collector recalls finding a 1985 D penny while sorting a jar of coins with his grandchildren. At first, he thought nothing of it. But after a closer inspection, he realized the mint mark was misaligned. That tiny discovery turned a quiet afternoon into a story of staggering wealth. Mistakes like these imperfections, are what make coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies in the world. The 1985 D penny is more than copper and minting errors. Its history, its rarity, its hope. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and auctions are now arenas where fortunes are made in seconds. If you have one, it's not just a coin, it's a key to a dream many only dare to imagine. And here's the final secret most people miss. This coin is not about the copper, not about the year alone, but about the story etched into every line and curve. Examine the mint mark, study the date, look for doubling or displacement, and avoid common mistakes, like assuming a worn coin can't be valuable. Many of the most stunning finds were nearly overlooked, hidden in piles of everyday pennies. But today, it can sell for over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary that most people wouldn't even glance at it. Yet this very coin has a hidden story that has stunned collectors around the world. It's the 1984 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a tiny copper disc hiding a fortune in plain sight. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the moment he discovered it, nothing in his life would ever feel ordinary again. It all begins with a mistake that nearly vanished into history. In 1984, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies. Most of them went unnoticed, tossed into jars, drawers, and cash registers. But a few pennies were struck without the iconic D mint mark, a tiny detail most people wouldn't notice, until it became priceless. Collectors were shocked when the first examples surfaced. Dealers who had spent decades studying Lincoln pennies were rushing to get their hands on these anomalies, knowing this coin could rewrite history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, digging through a roll of seemingly normal pennies from his local bank, felt the weight of something unusual. The coin looked ordinary, yet there was an unmistakable difference in the way the light reflected off its surface. That subtle absence of the mint mark, almost invisible to the untrained eye, set it apart. In that instant, a life-changing discovery was made, a discovery that would eventually be valued at over $1 million. Collectors can't stop talking about it. Auctions reached record-breaking heights when these coins began appearing, each sale fueling the legend. Stories of ordinary people finding these pennies in jars, tucked behind furniture, or forgotten in old wallets circulated like wildfire. One dealer said, "You don't find this kind of rarity every decade, it's the stuff of dreams." And yet, most people still pass by this penny every single day, unaware of the fortune they're ignoring. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of the D mint mark may seem insignificant, but it transforms a regular penny into a treasure that collectors across the United States would fight to acquire. Some of these pennies have been sold privately for life-changing sums, and every auction reminds the world just how rare, how coveted, and how powerful a single coin can be. And the stories don't stop there. One man found a 1984 no-mint mark penny tucked behind a photo frame, left by his grandfather decades earlier. He didn't even recognize its significance at first. When he showed it to an expert, their reaction was one of disbelief. Within weeks, that coin became a headline, fetching a price that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. The news rippled through the coin community like a shockwave. Ordinary coins could hide extraordinary wealth. Every collector should know how to spot this coin. Look closely at the area beneath the date on the penny. If there is no D mint mark, you might be holding a 1984 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Pay attention to the details, the texture, the strike, the copper tone. Subtle differences can confirm its authenticity. Avoid counterfeits or polished coins, which can destroy value. Even a slight cleaning or scratch can reduce its worth drastically. Precision is everything in the world of high-stakes coin collecting. Dealers warn that these coins are vanishing fast. The supply is nearly gone, and yet demand continues to skyrocket. Every auction sparks fierce bidding wars, and collectors are prepared to pay record prices. It's a rare moment where history, luck, and meticulous craftsmanship collide. And the best part? Ordinary people, just like you, are still discovering them in drawers, jars, and even loose change. Imagine the rush of holding one in your hand, the weight of history, the thrill of knowing that this small piece of copper is worth a fortune. One tiny, overlooked detail can change a life, a family, and even a collector's legacy forever. Stories like these aren't just about money, they're about dreams realized, fortunes uncovered, and the thrill of discovery. But remember, not every 1984 penny is valuable. Condition, authenticity, and the absence of the mint mark are everything. Experts recommend examining coins under magnification, looking for the subtle cues that separate a $1 million find from ordinary change. Each discovery is a delicate dance between knowledge and luck. One thing is clear. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin, it's a story, a mystery, and a life-changing opportunity all rolled into one. Collectors who understand its significance are already planning for auctions, private sales, and careful preservation. And for those who haven't yet checked their change, the next discovery could be hiding in plain sight. But could sell for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding what seems like a simple Lincoln penny from 1973, ordinary, overlooked, tossed into jars of spare change for decades. Yet hidden in its copper surface is a secret so rare, so astonishing, that collectors and dealers alike would pay millions just to hold it in their hands. It all started in the early 1970s, when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with subtle changes in coin production. Most pennies from that year look identical, so nobody noticed the tiny minting errors that would make some coins explode in value decades later. One man, a casual collector, stumbled upon a 1973 penny without a mint mark, and instantly felt something was different. He couldn't explain it, it just didn't look like the coins he'd seen hundreds of times before. Collectors were shocked when the penny surfaced at auction. What seemed like an ordinary coin caused bidding wars that lasted hours. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, and phone lines lit up across the country as the news spread. This tiny copper circle, barely larger than a thumbnail, had become $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts realized the key was in a subtle, almost invisible detail, a slight doubling in the numbers and letters on the coin, a tiny error that occurred during a fleeting moment at the Philadelphia Mint. Only a handful of pennies like this were ever produced. Most people would never notice the difference, tossing these coins into jars or letting them slide into the couch cushions. One collector, who had no idea of its true worth, held onto his 1973 no-mint mark penny for years, thinking it was just a curiosity. When he finally had it appraised, his jaw dropped. The coin's rarity, combined with pristine condition and this hidden minting anomaly, meant it could fetch up to $1.6 million. One man's pocket change had become a life-changing fortune. But here's the twist: many of these pennies are so small, so easy to overlook, that entire generations of collectors might have walked past one without ever realizing what they had. Dealers warn that unless you know exactly what to look for, this coin could sit in your drawer unnoticed. And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Someone out there, maybe even you, could be holding history in the palm of their hand. So, how do you spot it? First, check for the absence of a mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Then, examine the numbers and the date, especially the 7 and the 3. Look for subtle doubling, a shadow-like effect that most eyes completely miss. Finally, inspect the coin's condition. Even minor scratches or wear can drastically reduce its value, so the pristine examples are the true treasures. Collectors have been known to drop everything at the sight of this coin. One story tells of a man who discovered it in a jar of coins he bought at a yard sale. He almost used it for a vending machine, and only at the last second did he glance closely enough to see the doubling in the digits. That split-second observation changed his life forever. This coin isn't just about money, it's a piece of history. Each penny tells a story of the mint's processes, of mistakes that became miracles, and of ordinary people who stumbled into extraordinary fortune. And while others might scoff at the idea that a small copper coin could be worth millions, those who understand the story are willing to pay astronomical sums for a single example. But the thrill doesn't stop there. Imagine the auction room. The penny is presented under a spotlight, dozens of collectors holding their breath. The bidding starts modestly, then quickly spirals upward. Phones ring, paddles wave, and every second, the value climbs closer to the staggering $1.6 million mark. It's a scene straight out of a movie, yet it's real, and it all began with a tiny, unassuming coin almost thrown away. For anyone hoping to spot one, patience and a keen eye are everything. These pennies are rare, yes, but they're still out there, hiding in jars, drawers, and forgotten wallets. The thrill is in the hunt, in knowing that one coin could completely change your financial future. Dealers recommend magnifying glasses and careful lighting to spot the subtle errors that make the difference between a common penny and a multi-million-dollar gem. Collectors are often surprised by the stories attached to these coins. Some were discovered in the most mundane ways, rolled up with other pennies, tucked into a children's piggy bank, or even forgotten in an old change purse. And when these coins surface, they make headlines. They become legends, inspiring a whole generation to look closer at the coins they handle every day. And here's the final secret. It's not just about finding the coin, it's about knowing what to look for. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is distinguished by its unique date markings, its flawless copper sheen, and the tiniest minting anomaly, a detail so small, yet so valuable, it turns an everyday penny into a million-dollar treasure. So before you empty your jar of coins, pause and inspect carefully. Take your time. Look for the absence of a mint mark. Examine the numbers and the date. Compare with known examples online. This coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One ordinary penny, hiding an extraordinary secret, waiting for the lucky person who notices it. This coin almost ended up in a couch cushion, but today, it's a treasure worth nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a tiny, ordinary Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind you toss into a jar or forget in a wallet, and realizing it could be worth $1.7 million. That's not a typo. One small copper coin, minted in 1984, has flipped the coin world upside down, leaving collectors stunned and dealers scrambling. It all starts with a secret most people don't know. In 1984, a rare batch of Lincoln pennies was minted without a mint mark. Normally, pennies from this year carry a D or S, signaling Denver or San Francisco. But a few slipped through the cracks, quietly defying the rules. These coins weren't meant to exist, and that's what makes them priceless. Experts call it a minting anomaly, but collectors call it a miracle hiding in plain sight. One man's curiosity changed everything. He was sorting coins at a garage sale, barely paying attention, when his fingers brushed over something unusual. A Lincoln penny, bright and gleaming, without the telltale mint mark. He thought it was just a shiny error, nothing more. But when he checked the catalogs, he realized he was holding a potential $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Dealers across the country were calling, emails flying, offers skyrocketing. No one had seen a coin like this in decades. Some thought it was a hoax, others couldn't believe their luck. And yet, this tiny penny quietly carried the promise of untold wealth, all because of a tiny detail most people would never notice. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That same coin, just a few months later, went up for auction. Bidders barely believed their eyes. They examined it under magnifying glasses, comparing it with mint records, verifying its authenticity. And when the hammer finally fell, the price was jaw-dropping, over $1 million for a single penny. A coin that could have been spent at a vending machine had become the ultimate collector's dream. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date, the copper's shine, the absence of a mint mark. The coin must be genuine 1984 copper, not a post-mint altered piece. Experts warn of counterfeits, and even small scratches or wear can dramatically affect the value. But in perfect condition, this penny is not just a coin, it's a story, a miracle, and a fortune all in one. The story doesn't end there. Some coins disappeared into private collections, locked away for decades. Others surfaced in the most ordinary places: a pocket, a drawer, a jar of pennies. Every time one is found, it sends ripples through the collecting world. Dealers and collectors alike rush to authenticate and acquire it. The suspense is electric. Who will be the next person to stumble across $1 million discovery? One of the most famous finds came from a retired teacher who was cleaning out his attic. He hadn't collected coins seriously. He just enjoyed sorting them as a hobby. Among the hundreds of pennies, one shone differently. He paused, feeling a strange excitement, and took it to an expert. The verification process was tense, almost cinematic. When the result came back, a verified 1984 no-mint mark penny, his life changed overnight. Offers poured in, and a $1.7 million fortune had quietly been hiding in his attic for decades. You might be asking yourself, how do you know if you have this coin? Start with the date, 1984. Then examine the mint mark. If there is no D or S, you might be holding a candidate. But don't stop there. Look at the coin's copper color, its luster, and check for signs of cleaning or tampering. Authenticity is everything. Even experts spend hours verifying these details under magnification. One wrong step, and $1 million coin becomes a curiosity worth far less. The thrill of discovery is part of the story. Every collector dreams of finding a hidden treasure in their pocket change. Every dealer remembers the shock of first seeing this anomaly. It's not just a coin, it's a symbol of luck, patience, and a keen eye for history. Some collectors even say the excitement of finding one rivals winning the lottery. But unlike the lottery, this coin carries history, craftsmanship, and a guaranteed tale of fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies, often paying top dollar before an official auction. Every verified find reignites the frenzy. The mystery, the rarity, the excitement, it's the perfect storm for a coin world obsession. And every time one surfaces, collectors are reminded that fortune favors the observant. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to anyone anywhere. You have to understand the psychological thrill here. This isn't just about money, it's about holding a piece of history in your hand, knowing it could change your life. People who find these coins report an adrenaline rush, a mix of disbelief and excitement. And once you see it, once you verify it, it's impossible not to imagine what you could do with $1 million penny in your hands. Even seasoned collectors get swept up in the story. Some have entire collections, yet the 1984 no-mint mark penny remains the pinnacle of desire. Others have never collected a coin in their lives, yet stumble upon one and suddenly enter a world they never imagined. The coin doesn't just have value, it carries dreams, legacy, and the rare chance to rewrite someone's financial story overnight. Remember, every moment counts. Coins like this are vanishing from circulation. Each verified find increases the mystique and the market value. And every discovery reminds us, treasure can be anywhere, waiting for the right eye to recognize it. It could be a coin jar, a forgotten wallet, or a gift from a relative who didn't know its true worth. So, if you have old pennies lying around, don't dismiss them. Examine them closely. Look for the date 1984, check carefully for no mint mark, and study the coin's condition. Compare it with authenticated examples online or with experts in your area. Even a tiny glint of perfection could signal a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One small coin, one fleeting discovery, one life-changing moment. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a secret fortune, waiting to be uncovered. Your $1 million moment could be one careful glance away. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, it could be worth up to $1.8 million. Imagine that, a coin so ordinary that most people would overlook it, tucked into a jar of loose change, suddenly becoming one of the most coveted treasures in the coin world. Collectors were stunned when news of this penny spread, and dealers are now scrambling to find even a single example. But what makes this tiny copper disc worth millions? The answer is hidden in the smallest details. Details most people never even noticed. It all started with the 2015 Lincoln penny, a coin minted during a year most collectors considered unremarkable. These pennies were common, ordinary, even disposable. Yet a rare few hold the secret, a minting anomaly that can transform a simple penny into a fortune. One man discovered this entirely by accident while sorting through his pocket change. What he thought was just another penny became a ticket to $1 million miracle. The story spread like wildfire, shocking coin collectors across the country. But the mystery doesn't end there. This penny isn't just rare because it's old. It's rare because of a production error at the US Mint, a mistake almost no one knew existed. Only a handful of these coins were struck with this exact imperfection. Some had a double date. Others had a missing or misaligned mint mark, a tiny detail invisible to most eyes, yet critical to collectors. The realization hit the coin world like a lightning bolt. These pennies weren't just valuable, they were practically priceless. One man's pocket change became a multi-million-dollar story overnight, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News outlets picked up the story of a collector who had casually bought a roll of pennies at face value and discovered the treasure inside. Auction houses couldn't believe it. They examined the coin, scrutinized it under magnification, and confirmed what everyone feared, or hoped, it was genuine. A coin minted in 2015, sitting unnoticed for years, suddenly had a price tag that would make anyone's jaw drop, over $1 million. This wasn't just a story about money. It was about timing, chance, and the incredible unpredictability of history. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling, and everyday people were suddenly looking at their jars of coins with new eyes. Could your own loose change hold a secret like this? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling of the digits on the date, the absence of a mint mark, the microscopic shift in the design, these aren't things you notice at a casual glance, but for the trained collector, they are priceless clues. One single detail can be the difference between a penny worth a few cents and a treasure worth millions. But the surprises keep coming. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a curiosity. It's part of a secret lineage of errors that collectors dream about. Throughout history, these mistakes have created some of the most valuable coins ever sold. And this penny fits right into that tradition. Each coin has a story, a hidden signature of a minting moment that will never be repeated. One man's ordinary pocket change became $1 million legacy, a story that will be told for generations in collector circles. Imagine the rush of holding this coin in your hand. That copper sheen, the tiny engraved face of Lincoln, seemingly ordinary, yet holding unimaginable value. Dealers can't stop talking about it, collectors can't stop searching for it, and the stories keep multiplying. But what's even more incredible is how accessible this coin can be. Unlike centuries-old coins locked in museum collections, this 2015 penny could literally be sitting in your drawer, your wallet, or a forgotten jar. That's the power of chance, of serendipity, and the thrill of collecting. One of the most unbelievable aspects of this coin is how easy it is to overlook. Most people never check their pennies closely, especially modern ones. Yet the smallest variation, a tiny line, a missing mint mark, a subtle doubling, can be the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth millions. This exact penny could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its incredible potential. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding where you least expect them. Dealers have been warning collectors to stay vigilant. One tiny misstep, misreading the date, overlooking the mint mark, mistaking it for a common penny, could cost millions. But for those who know what to look for, the reward is unimaginable. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a collectible, it's a portal to wealth, a piece of history, and a story that could change someone's life forever. The excitement isn't just in the money, it's in the discovery, the realization that something seemingly ordinary could be extraordinary. And here's how you can identify this exact coin. Look closely at the date. Examine the mint mark, or, in this case, the deliberate absence of one. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubling or subtle misalignments in Lincoln's profile. Every line, every engraving, every microscopic detail matters. Most importantly, be patient, be thorough, and never underestimate the power of a second glance. A coin worth millions doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It hides in plain sight, waiting for the eyes that truly see it. Collectors have described the moment of discovery as surreal. The coin that once held no meaning now has the power to change lives. And that's the magic of the 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. It's more than copper and zinc. It's more than a piece of currency. It's a miracle hidden in plain sight, a story that reminds us why we collect, why we hope, and why we always check our coins twice. The thrill of possibility, the hope of discovery, the chance that $1 million treasure is closer than you think, that's what makes this coin legendary. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One glance, one careful examination, one tiny moment of attention could reveal a fortune that changes everything. History, chance, and opportunity all converge in this unassuming coin. And when that moment happens, when a collector finally recognizes it, the world will watch in awe as ordinary copper becomes a life-changing treasure. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one example stunned the coin world and reached over $1 million. Picture this for a moment. A regular morning. Loose change on a kitchen table. A small brown penny, scratched, dull, unremarkable. The kind you've held thousands of times without a second thought. But this one detail, so small, so easy to miss, turned an ordinary 1961 Lincoln penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that collectors still talk about in hushed, excited tones. And here's the terrifying part. Millions of people have already spent this coin without ever realizing what they had. The year is 1961. America is changing fast. The Cold War is intense, the space race is heating up, and the U.S. Mint is producing billions of Lincoln pennies to keep up with everyday commerce. The Denver Mint alone struck more than 1.7 billion pennies that year. That massive number is exactly why this story feels impossible, because hidden inside that ocean of copper were a handful of coins that should never have existed. Collectors didn't notice at first. Dealers didn't notice either. For years, the 1961 penny was dismissed as common, boring, face value only. People tossed them into jars, paid for coffee with them, dropped them between couch cushions. But behind closed doors at the Mint, something went wrong, and that mistake quietly created a legend. During production, a small number of 1961 Lincoln pennies were struck with extremely rare minting errors and extraordinary characteristics. Some were struck on the wrong planchet. Others showed dramatic die errors, double details, or abnormal metal compositions that didn't match official mint records. These weren't cosmetic flaws. They were mint-level accidents, the kind that collectors dream of and almost never see. One coin in particular became the centerpiece of a bidding war that left seasoned professionals speechless. The story goes that a collector inherited a small box of coins from a relative who worked near Denver in the early 1960s. The box sat untouched for decades. No fancy holders. No labels. Just loose pennies wrapped in old paper. When the collector finally decided to have them evaluated, expectations were low. until one penny stopped the expert cold. Under magnification, the 1961 penny showed anomalies that defied expectations. The strike was unusually sharp. The metal weight was off. The surfaces told a story that didn't match any standard issue coin. Further testing revealed something shocking. This penny was struck in a way that should not have been possible under normal mint procedures. Collectors were shocked. Dealers leaned in closer. Phones came out. Photos were sent. Word spread quietly, then explosively. When the coin was authenticated and graded, the grade itself sent waves through the numismatic community. High-grade examples of already rare error pennies are the holy grail, and this one checked every box. Perfect storm. Right year. Right mint mark. Right mistake. Right condition. As the numbers climbed, seasoned bidders didn't flinch. They knew exactly what they were seeing. A true anomaly. A once-in-a-generation coin. A penny that rewrote what people thought was possible for modern-era Lincoln cents. Because during high-speed minting runs, errors don't happen once. They happen in clusters. That means some of these 1961 Lincoln pennies slipped into circulation unnoticed, spent at gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, and parking meters. First, the date and mint mark must be perfect. It must read 1961, with a clear D mint mark below the date, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Many people confuse damage with rarity. Scratches, corrosion, or worn-down letters do not add value. In fact, they destroy it. Next, pay attention to the strike. The rare high-value examples often show unusually sharp details on Lincoln's portrait, crisp hairlines, strong cheek definition, and clean separation in the lettering. Weak or mushy strikes are usually common. Check the weight. Standard 1961 pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams. Rare error examples may weigh more or less due to wrong metal planchets or alloy inconsistencies. Even a small difference can mean everything. Look closely at the lettering and numbers. Some of the most valuable specimens show doubling, especially in Liberty in God We Trust, or the date. This doubling is not machine doubling. It appears raised, rounded, and intentional, not flat or smeared, and don't forget the surface color. Certain rare 1961 pennies display unusual copper tones or textures that indicate experimental or transitional metal usage, something the mint never officially documented. After the $1 million sale, collectors across the country began rechecking their penny jars. Coin shops were flooded. Submissions to grading services surged. People who had ignored pennies for decades suddenly realized they might be holding history in their hands. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on authenticated examples because demand keeps growing. The story of the $1 million penny ignited a new generation of collectors, especially those who grew up spending these coins without ever imagining their potential. This isn't ancient gold. It isn't a medieval artifact locked in a museum. This is a penny. A coin you've held. A coin you might still have. Before you dismiss this as impossible, remember, every legendary coin discovery starts the same way. Someone almost spends it. Someone almost throws it away. Someone looks 1 second longer. But instead, it shocked the collecting world and reached a value whispered at nearly $1 million. Imagine this for a second. You're digging through old pocket change, a jar that's been sitting untouched for years. Among the dull copper coins is a 1980 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Nothing special at first glance. Most people wouldn't even slow down. They'd toss it aside, spend it, forget it ever existed. But this is the exact moment where ordinary lives have turned extraordinary. Because some 1980 no mint mark Lincoln pennies are not just coins, they are silent witnesses to a minting mystery that collectors still talk about in hushed, excited tones. Back in 1980, America was changing. Inflation was high, metal prices were rising, and the U.S. Mint was under intense pressure to produce billions of pennies faster than ever before. Machines ran nonstop. Quality control was stretched thin. And in that chaos, mistakes were born. Mistakes so rare, so perfectly wrong, that decades later they would be chased like buried treasure. A man in the Midwest reportedly pulled a worn 1980 penny from everyday change. Nothing fancy. But something felt off. The weight wasn't right. The surface didn't look like normal copper. He held onto it, tested it. And when experts finally examined it, the room went silent. You see, 1980 was right on the edge of one of the biggest composition shifts in U.S. coin history. Most people know that pennies before 1982 were mostly copper, and after that, they were zinc-based. But what very few realize is that experimental planchets, transitional errors, and off-metal strikes were quietly slipping through the system. Some 1980 no-mint mark pennies appear to have been struck on the wrong metal entirely. Others show extreme doubling, weak strikes, or planchet flaws so dramatic that graders initially thought they were fake. They weren't. Dealers were stunned. Collectors were obsessed. Phones started ringing. One verified error example sent shockwaves through auction houses, with private offers rumored to approach $1 million. And suddenly, a penny everyone ignored became a legend. The key is not just the date. It's not just the missing mint mark. It's the combination. A 1980 penny with no mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, back when the mint didn't place a P on pennies. That alone is common. Millions were made, some way wrong. A normal 1980 copper penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. But a rare transitional or off-metal error might come in significantly lighter or heavier. That difference, invisible to the naked eye, can be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. A collector, who had spent decades quietly searching rolls of pennies, finally sent in a 1980 no-mint mark coin that showed unusual surface texture and faint doubling in Lincoln's portrait. At first, even professionals hesitated. But after advanced testing, the verdict was clear. It was authentic. A genuine mint error from a chaotic moment in U.S. mint history. As word spread, dealers across the country started checking their inventories. Collectors rushed to old jars, drawers, and inherited coin collections. Because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, this treasure started its life as everyday money. It passed through hands. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. Because the difference between an ordinary 1980 penny and a potential $1 million often comes down to details so small they're almost unfair. Look closely at Lincoln's face. Is there doubling on the date? On the letters of liberty? On "I in God we trust"? Strong doubling, not just machine blur, can signal a double die error that collectors will pay enormous premiums for. Feel the coin. Does it sound different when dropped? Does it feel lighter than other pennies from the same era? That subtle difference has led to some of the biggest discoveries. And then there's the surface. Some of these rare pennies show strange textures, incomplete plating, or colors that don't match normal copper. These are not damage. These are clues. Collectors were stunned when reports surfaced of rare pennies found after decades in circulation, sometimes in the most unlikely places. A car cup holder. A child's piggy bank. A drawer labeled junk. Major grading services began seeing a rise in submissions for 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln cents. Most were ordinary. But every so often, one would stop them cold. Off metal. Wrong weight. Struck just a little too perfectly wrong. We're talking about a coin that cost 1 cent to make, and could be worth $1 million or more under the right circumstances. First, never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Even wiping it can erase evidence. Experts need to verify authenticity. Second, weigh it. A simple digital scale can reveal secrets the eye can't see. Third, compare it. Put it next to other 1980 pennies. Differences will start to jump out when you look closely. And finally, if something feels off, trust that instinct and have it professionally evaluated. Many life-changing coins were almost ignored because someone assumed it couldn't be real. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. And a simple Lincoln penny became one of the most talked about modern discoveries in U.S. coin collecting. But today, one example has been whispered about as being worth up to $1 million. And the most terrifying part is how easily it can be overlooked. Imagine this. You're digging through old pocket change late at night. Nothing special. Just copper pennies scratched, dull, forgotten. Then one coin stops you. A 1967 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. The same kind millions of Americans have touched. The same kind people spend every single day. But this one would later shock collectors and rewrite what we thought we knew about modern pennies. At first glance, the 1967 Lincoln penny feels ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's calm profile. The familiar wheat-free reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. But 1967 was not an ordinary year. America was tense. The Vietnam War was escalating. The economy was under pressure. And behind the scenes, the U.S. Mint made a decision that would accidentally create one of the most mysterious pennies in history. From 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint removed all mint marks from coins. No D. No S. No identifying letter at all. The goal was simple: stop collectors from hoarding coins during a nationwide coin shortage. But in trying to simplify production, the Mint created chaos and opportunity. Because during this period, experimental processes were quietly happening. New dyes, transitional metals, inconsistent strikes, errors that were never meant to leave the building. Years later, a longtime collector was sorting through a roll of pennies purchased from a small-town bank. Hundreds of coins passed through his hands. Then suddenly, one 1967 penny felt wrong. The weight wasn't right. The strike looked sharper than normal. Lincoln's coat lines were unusually crisp. And the color looked off, almost too rich, too perfect. When experts examined the coin, jaws dropped. The penny showed signs of an extremely rare minting anomaly, believed by some specialists to be struck on an experimental or transitional planchet, possibly never intended for public release. Others pointed to ultra-rare double die characteristics so subtle that 99% of collectors would miss them entirely. And suddenly, the quiet little 1967 no mint mark penny became one of the most talked about modern coins in private collector circles. Hidden in jars. Stuck in drawers. Sitting in old coffee cans in garages across America. First, condition is everything. The legendary high-value 1967 pennies are found in near-perfect or absolutely pristine condition. We're talking razor-sharp details. No heavy wear. Strong luster. A surface that almost glows under light. Many spent decades untouched because their owners never realized what they had. Second, the strike quality. On rare examples, Lincoln's portrait appears unusually bold. The letters in Liberty stand tall and clean. The date looks perfectly formed, with no weakness. And the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse shows deeper lines than normal circulation strikes. Some of the most valuable examples show abnormal weight, slightly heavier or lighter than standard copper pennies of the era. This suggests they may have been struck on experimental planchets, or blanks left over from testing phases. These coins were never supposed to enter circulation. When one of these coins quietly surfaced at a private auction, bidding escalated at a terrifying speed. Collectors who had ignored 1967 pennies for decades suddenly realized they might have made the biggest mistake of their careers. The final price wasn't publicly confirmed, but insiders whispered a number close to $1 million. Overnight, dealers began aggressively searching rolls of pennies from the 1960s. Estate sales were raided. Old collections were re-examined. Pennies once dismissed as worthless were suddenly treated like buried treasure. Most people who own a 1967 no mint mark penny will never know if theirs is special, because the differences are subtle. Microscopic. Almost cruelly easy to miss. A slight doubling in the lettering. A sharper than normal strike. A weight difference so small you'd never feel it in your hand. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many had already been spent, lost, or damaged over the decades, unknowingly destroying potential fortunes. First, never clean a 1967 penny. Ever. Cleaning destroys value instantly. A cleaned coin that could have been worth $1 million becomes nearly worthless to serious collectors. Second, check the weight using a precise digital scale. Even a tiny difference matters. If something feels off, that's not coincidence, that's a clue. Third, examine the coin under magnification. Look closely at Lincoln's profile, especially the eye, jawline, and coat. Study the date. Inspect the letters. On rare examples, you'll notice doubling or unusual sharpness that doesn't match normal circulation strikes. Fourth, trust your instincts. Many legendary discoveries started with one thought: this coin feels different. And finally, if you suspect you've found something special, never sell it raw. Professional grading and authentication are essential. These coins live or die by expert verification. A simple 1996 D Lincoln penny, the kind millions of Americans handled without a second thought, hiding a secret that shocked collectors and changed lives forever. Imagine this. It's the mid-1990s. The US Mint is pumping out billions of pennies. Vending machines are jammed, pockets are heavy, and copper coins feel worthless. Most people couldn't care less. But somewhere in Denver, something went wrong, just slightly, and that tiny mistake would become one of the most mysterious modern penny legends ever discussed. At first, no one noticed. These coins slipped into circulation like any other. Grocery stores, gas stations, school cafeterias. One of them even sat for years in a dusty jar, mixed with loose change, ignored, forgotten. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector doing a routine roll search noticed something strange. The date looked normal. The D mint mark was clear. But the surface, the strike, it wasn't right. It had an unusual texture, razor-sharp details in places that shouldn't exist, and weaknesses where metal should have flowed smoothly. At first, he thought it was damage. Then he realized something terrifyingly exciting. This coin wasn't supposed to exist like this. Rumors started spreading quietly at first. A 1996 D penny with a mysterious minting anomaly. Some believed it was a wrong planchet error. Others whispered about experimental metal tests. A few even suggested it escaped quality control during a high-speed production run when dies were failing and errors slipped through unnoticed. Most people scrolled past it. Just another penny, right? But serious collectors stopped cold. The bidding exploded. Phone calls flooded dealers. Forums lit up. Because this wasn't just any error. This was the kind of coin that rewrites price guides. But here's the cliffhanger. Not every 1996 D penny is valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth exactly 1 cent. So what separates pocket change from $1 million? The legendary examples show extreme die errors, double design elements that look like shadows around Lincoln's profile, abnormal metal flow lines, and in some cases, weight inconsistencies that don't match standard copper-plated zinc pennies. Some appear thicker. Some have an almost proof-like shine, despite being struck for circulation. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because only a handful are known, and more could still be out there. Billions were made. Millions are still sitting in drawers, jars, glove compartments, old piggy banks. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he looked closer when everyone else didn't. A second example surfaced years later. Different owner. Same date. Same mint mark. Same impossible characteristics. Suddenly, the idea that this was a one-off mistake vanished. This was a pattern, a rare one, but real. And that's when values skyrocketed. Collectors began quietly offering life-changing money. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But figures that made people pause, breathe, and rethink everything they thought they knew about pennies. They were tossed into tip jars. Left on counters. Dropped into parking lots. Lost forever. Because nobody thought a modern penny could be worth millions. Let's slow down and talk about how to identify this exact coin. Because this is where dreams are either made or destroyed. First, it must be dated 1996 with a clear D mint mark below the date. No mint mark means it's not the one. That D is non-negotiable. Second, look closely at Lincoln's portrait. Any doubling around the eye, ear, bow tie, or jawline is critical. Real doubling looks raised and solid, not flat or blurry like machine damage. Third, inspect the surface texture. Legendary examples show unusual smoothness mixed with sharp detail, or strange rippling in the fields. If it looks off, but you can't explain why, that's a good sign. Fourth, weigh the coin. Even a small deviation from the standard weight can indicate something extraordinary. Many people skip this step, and that mistake alone has cost fortunes. And here's the most important warning: do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. A clean $1 million coin becomes a damaged penny in seconds. Every year, new collectors enter the hobby dreaming of a miracle coin. Most never find one. But the ones who do all say the same thing: it didn't look special at first glance. It only revealed itself to those who slowed down and paid attention. Because the 1990-60 Lincoln penny isn't ancient. It isn't gold. It isn't obvious. It hides in plain sight, blending in with worthless change, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. But sold for nearly $1 million. A single penny. Ordinary. Brown. The kind you've ignored your entire life. Yet this one tiny Lincoln cent from 1982, with no mint mark at all, turned pocket change into a story that shook the entire coin world. In 1982, America was changing in ways most people didn't notice. Gas prices were high, the economy was tense, and behind closed doors, the U.S. Mint made one of the most chaotic production shifts in modern coin history. That year alone, the Mint changed the metal composition of the penny, moving from mostly copper to zinc coated with copper. It sounds boring, until you realize this created a perfect storm of mistakes, mismatched metals, and experimental strikes that were never meant to exist. Collectors didn't realize it at first. Pennies from 1982 flooded into circulation by the billions. People spent them on coffee, parking meters, candy machines. But hidden among them were rare no-mint mark Lincoln pennies struck under mysterious conditions, coins that should not exist the way they do. One collector, sorting loose change late at night, noticed something strange. The penny felt heavier. Just slightly. He almost dismissed it. Almost spent it the next morning. But something stopped him. That hesitation would change his life forever. When experts examined that 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, they realized it was struck on the wrong metal planchet. A copper composition when it should have been zinc. Or worse, a transitional error that slipped through during the Mint's most confusing year. These mistakes were never supposed to leave the Mint. Most were caught and destroyed. A few escaped. Auction houses began whispering about them. Dealers quietly searched rolls. Longtime collectors who thought they had seen everything suddenly realized the greatest treasure might not be locked in a vault, but sitting in a jar on a kitchen counter. Not all 1982 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. In fact, most are worth just 1 cent. That's why this story is so dangerous and so powerful. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million can come down to a detail so small most people miss it completely. And this tiny detail is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. In 1982, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark. So every 1982 penny without a mint mark looks ordinary. That's what makes this hunt so terrifying and thrilling at the same time. The treasure is hiding in plain sight. The real value comes from the metal weight, the strike quality, and rare error combinations created during the transition year. Some were struck using old copper blanks after the Mint officially switched to zinc. Others showed doubled dies, weak strikes, or experimental presses used briefly and then abandoned. One example stunned everyone when it crossed the auction block. The bidding started slow. A few $1,000s. Then phone lines lit up. Private collectors, institutions, investors, all fighting for the same tiny copper coin. The price climbed. 50,000. 100,000. $500,000. And experts believe another example could easily break the $1 million mark again, especially as surviving specimens disappear into private collections. After that sale, collectors across the United States began checking their change. Banks ran out of penny rolls. Coin shops were flooded with hopeful faces. Most people found nothing. But a very few, found pennies that made experts pause. The U.S. Mint never released full records of every experimental strike or error that escaped during the 1982 transition. That uncertainty fuels the obsession. It's why collectors aged 30 to 70, seasoned veterans and curious newcomers alike, still dream about this coin. Most people make critical mistakes when checking these pennies. They look only at the date. They ignore the weight. They clean the coin, destroying its value forever. Some even throw away the very clue that would have made it worth $1 million. First, confirm the date, 1982. No mint mark under Lincoln's date, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Then weigh it carefully. A copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. A zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. That difference is everything. If your 1982 no mint mark penny weighs like copper when it shouldn't, your heart should start racing. Next, examine the strike. Look for unusual sharpness, doubling in the letters, or mismatched details. Transitional errors often look slightly wrong to the trained eye, almost like the coin can't decide what it wants to be. And whatever you do, never clean it. Never polish it. Never assume it's worthless just because it looks normal. Many of the most valuable coins ever discovered looked boring at first glance. Experts say the market for rare Lincoln cents is stronger than ever. As older collections disappear and new collectors enter the hobby, demand is exploding. And coins with confirmed error history from 1982 sit at the center of that storm. This isn't just about money. It's about discovery. About the thrill that keeps collectors searching for decades. About the possibility that fate placed something extraordinary in your path without you ever knowing it. But today, examples of it are whispered about in auctions with prices climbing toward $1 million territory, and the most shocking part is that millions of people have already touched it without ever realizing what they were holding. Imagine this for a second. You're digging through old pocket change, maybe a jar that's been sitting untouched for decades. Your fingers brush past a dull, brown Lincoln penny from 1997 with a small D mint mark under the date. Ordinary. Forgettable. Exactly the kind of coin people ignore every single day. But what if that exact penny was hiding a secret so rare, so dangerous to overlook, that collectors have paid fortunes trying to find it again? Because this is not just any 1997 D Lincoln penny. This is one of the most mysterious modern coins the U.S. Mint ever released into circulation, and its story reads like a warning to anyone who thinks modern pennies can't be valuable. At first, nobody noticed anything unusual. In 1997, billions of Lincoln pennies rolled out of the Denver Mint, flooding banks, cash registers, and pockets across America. It was a normal year. No fanfare. No headlines. But buried inside that massive production were a handful of coins that should never have existed. Collectors later discovered that a tiny batch of 1997 D pennies showed strange characteristics that didn't match official mint records. Metal compositions that felt wrong. Details that looked slightly distorted. And in some cases, errors so subtle that even experienced collectors missed them at first glance. A collector in the Midwest reportedly pulled one of these pennies from everyday change. No gloves. No magnifier. Just a coin that felt off. The weight was different. The surface tone didn't behave like a normal copper-plated zinc penny. When tested, it raised alarms. This coin was not supposed to be made this way. Experts believe some 1997 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchets, possibly leftover blanks from earlier compositions or experimental metal batches. These were never meant to leave the mint. Yet somehow, they slipped through quality control and entered circulation unnoticed. But here's the twist that made this coin legendary. Not all valuable 1997 D pennies look dramatic. Some don't scream error. Some don't look damaged or misstruck. In fact, the most valuable examples appear almost normal, until you know exactly where to look. Under magnification, certain 1997 D pennies reveal double design elements that are not caused by wear or damage. The doubling appears clean, raised, and consistent, pointing to a rare double die error. Lincoln's profile may show subtle separation. Letters in God We Trust can appear thickened or split. The date itself may look slightly distorted, as if it's vibrating. Some examples show an unusual strike pressure that makes the details sharper than normal, almost proof-like, even though they were never meant to be proofs. Others display weak areas paired with razor-sharp lettering, a sign something went very wrong during the strike. A normal 1997 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. But certain rare 1997 D examples come in heavier or lighter, hinting at the wrong metal composition. When tested with advanced equipment, a few have shocked experts by not matching standard zinc or readings at all. When one of these pennies finally appeared at a high-end private sale, the bidding didn't start in the thousands. It didn't even start in the hundreds of thousands. Serious collectors, the kind who spend their lives chasing impossible coins, recognized what it was instantly. A modern-era mistake so rare it challenged everything people believed about valuable pennies. The final price was never officially announced. But insiders whispered numbers that crept closer and closer to $1 million territory. Collectors across the U.S. started tearing apart old rolls, jars, and childhood collections. Coin shops were flooded with people asking the same question. "Can you check my 1997 penny?" One dealer described holding a confirmed example as terrifying. Because you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a life-changing mistake. A single piece of copper-colored metal that could erase debts, buy homes, and rewrite family histories. Because unlike classic rarities locked away in museums, the 1997 Lincoln penny was a circulation coin. It passed through vending machines, gas stations, school cafeterias. It was dropped, spent, and forgotten. But before you get excited, there's a dangerous trap many people fall into. Not every 1997 penny is rare. In fact, most are common. Damage, corrosion, and wear can fool beginners into thinking they've found something special. To identify the real thing, you must look carefully. First, check the mint mark. It must have a clear D beneath the date. No D means it's not the one. Then inspect the coin under strong magnification. Look for true double die characteristics, not flat, shelf-like doubling caused by machine wear, but rounded, raised doubling that looks intentional. Next, weigh the coin precisely. Even a small deviation from the standard weight can be a massive red flag. Then examine the color and surface. If it looks unusually smooth, reflective, or oddly toned, do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly and could erase proof of authenticity. And here's the mistake that ruins people's chances. They assume a valuable coin must look old or ugly. In reality, the highest value examples are often the ones in the best condition. Sharp details. Minimal wear. Original surfaces. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he didn't dismiss what felt slightly strange. The 1997 Lincoln penny proves that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it waits decades for the right person to notice. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still hoping. And somewhere, right now, a single penny could be sitting in a drawer, a cup holder, or a forgotten jar, carrying a secret powerful enough to change a life forever. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, collectors whisper about it as a discovery worth nearly $1 million. A single Lincoln penny from 2002, with no mint mark, overlooked for years, ignored in pocket change, hiding a secret that shocked the entire coin world when it finally came to light. Imagine this for a moment. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Receipts, keys, a few pennies. One of them looks ordinary. Brown. Dull. Worth 1 cent, right? That's exactly what one collector thought, until a tiny detail stopped him cold. What he found turned his spare change into a story that still sends chills through seasoned dealers. The year was 2002. America was moving fast, coins were being minted by the billions, and nobody was paying attention to Lincoln pennies anymore. But behind the scenes, something went wrong. Very wrong. A small batch of pennies was struck under unusual conditions, and one of those coins slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed, unprotected, waiting for the right hands to find it. Collectors were shocked when the first verified example surfaced. No mint mark. Razor-sharp details. And a flaw so rare that experts initially refused to believe it was real. But when microscopes came out and tests were done, silence filled the room. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a genuine minting anomaly, one that should never have left the U.S. Mint. Word spread fast. Dealers who had ignored 2002 pennies for decades suddenly started digging through bags, jars, and rolls. Phone calls exploded. Auctions heated up. One sale after another pushed the value higher and higher, until whispers of $1 million started circulating through elite collector circles. Here's what makes this penny so powerful. It wasn't supposed to be rare. Over 8 billion Lincoln cents were struck in 2002. Billions. And yet, this specific no-mint mark era penny stands completely apart from the rest. It's like finding a single misprinted page inside millions of identical books. One collector described the moment he realized what he had as electric. His hands shook. His heart raced. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't just a coin. This was a once-in-a-lifetime miracle hiding in plain sight. Experts believe this penny was struck using an incorrect die alignment combined with a transitional metal planchet anomaly. In simple terms, the coin was born during a perfect storm of minting chaos. A mistake layered on top of another mistake. The kind of error that slips past quality control only once in a generation. Collectors were stunned when auction estimates crossed 6 figures, then 7. And when private offers reportedly approached $1 million, disbelief turned into obsession. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 2002 no-mint mark penny they can find, hoping lightning strikes twice. That's the question driving collectors crazy. Because this penny didn't come from a vault or a collection. It came from circulation. Which means others could still be hiding in drawers, jars, old purses, forgotten coin rolls. Right now, when high-resolution scans of the original discovery were released, collectors noticed something terrifying. Several other pennies shared similar traits, but were never examined closely enough. Pennies spent on coffee. Pennies tossed into tip jars. Pennies lost forever. To identify this exact 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, you must slow down and look closer than you ever have before. First, check the date, 2002 exactly. Then confirm there is no mint mark under the date. Not a D. Not an S, completely blank. But that alone is not enough. Next, study Lincoln's portrait. On the rare examples, the details appear unusually sharp or oddly distorted at the same time. Look closely at the rim. Some show slight doubling or an uneven strike that's easy to dismiss unless you know what you're looking for. Now the most important part. The surface texture. Under light, the coin may show a strange finish, almost too smooth in places, too rough in others. This is a sign of the rare minting error that triggered the frenzy. The moment you clean it, polish it, or even rub it too hard, you destroy its value. Collectors have lost life-changing money by trying to make the coin look better. Condition is everything. Leave it exactly as you found it, and if you think you found one, stop. Don't spend it. Don't sell it cheap. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service immediately. This is the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors are still stunned by how long this secret stayed hidden. A modern penny. A forgotten year. A tiny mistake. And yet, it carries the kind of value people spend a lifetime chasing. Think about how many pennies you've handled without looking. How many you've dropped. How many you've given away. Every single one could have been the answer to a dream you didn't know you were holding. But instead, it stunned collectors and climbed toward $1 million territory, rewriting everything people thought they knew about pocket change. Imagine this for a moment. You're cleaning out an old jar of pennies. Dusty. Heavy. Forgotten. Your fingers move fast, barely looking, until one ordinary brown coin catches the light just a little differently. A 1970 Lincoln penny. Denver Mint. Nothing special, or so it seems. That single moment, that tiny hesitation, is where a normal life and a life-changing discovery can split forever. When this penny was struck, America was changing fast. The space race. Vietnam. Inflation. The U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins quickly, and in that rush, mistakes happened. Mistakes so subtle that most people never noticed them. Mistakes that today can turn a 1-cent coin into a piece valued near $1 million. The first whispers began quietly, almost like rumors no one wanted to believe. A collector noticed something strange under magnification, doubling where there shouldn't be any. letters that looked like shadows. A date that seemed alive. At first, experts dismissed it. Then another example appeared. Then another. And suddenly, the impossible became undeniable. Hidden among millions of normal 1970D pennies were coins struck with dramatic double die errors. Not weak doubling. Not machine damage. True double dies, the kind created when the coin die itself is misaligned during the hubbing process. That mistake permanently imprints a second image into the metal, clear and unmistakable once you know where to look. The 1970D double die penny doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. On the word liberty, the doubling can be bold. On I in God we trust, letters appear doubled, thickened, almost vibrating. Even the date shows separation that shouldn't exist. To the untrained eye, it's just wear. To a trained collector, it's a miracle. Point one auction changed everything. A high-grade 1970D double die penny appeared, authenticated and slabbed. Bidding started strong. Then it exploded. Phones rang. Online bidders jumped in. The price kept climbing higher and higher until seasoned collectors sat back in disbelief. A penny, a single cent, pushing into territory normally reserved for gold and legendary rarities. Some 1970 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets, including rare transitional errors. These coins weigh differently. They sound different. And when discovered, they caused shockwaves across the numismatic community. A Denver minted penny struck incorrectly during a period of metal experimentation is the kind of thing collectors dream about but rarely ever see. One man, an everyday American, had been collecting coins casually for decades. Nothing serious. No fancy equipment. Just curiosity. One evening, he decided to finally examine his pennies more closely. Under a simple magnifying glass, he noticed the doubling. His heart started pounding. He checked again. And again. When experts confirmed it, the room went silent. Collectors were shocked not just by the value, but by how close this coin came to being lost forever. How many had already been spent? How many tossed into Coinstar machines? How many buried in couch cushions, never to be noticed? A worn example might be valuable. But a sharp, well-preserved 1970D double die penny? That's where the numbers explode. Crisp details. Clean surfaces. Strong luster. Every grade point higher can mean tens or hundreds of thousands more in value. This is why collectors obsess over storage, handling, and authentication. Machine doubling is common. Real double dies are rare. The difference is everything. Machine doubling looks flat, shelf-like, almost scraped. True double dies show rounded, raised secondary images. Once you learn this distinction, you'll never see coins the same way again. As news spread online, collectors across the country started checking their change. Coin shops saw floods of 1970 pennies come through the door. Most were normal. Some were damaged. But every once in a while, someone struck gold. Because this wasn't a coin locked away in museums. It wasn't a colonial relic. It was a modern penny that could still be hiding anywhere. In drawers, jars, old coffee cans, inherited collections, even forgotten rolls from the bank. Hope that ordinary people can still find extraordinary treasure. Hope that history left a few miracles behind for those willing to look closer. Hope that a moment of curiosity can change everything. First, check the date. It must read 1970, with a clear D mint mark below the date. Next, use magnification, at least 10x. Examine Liberty carefully. Look for strong, rounded doubling, not flat or blurry. Then inspect I in God we trust. Any clear separation in the letters is a major signal. Finally, weigh the coin and listen to its sound. Anything unusual deserves professional evaluation. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned collectors and sold for nearly $1 million. A simple 1995 D mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably held hundreds of times without a second glance, quietly became one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins ever discovered. Imagine this for a moment. A man empties his pockets after a long day. Keys. Receipts. A handful of loose change. Among them, one ordinary-looking penny. Copper-colored. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face. Nothing special at first glance. But what happened next would shock the entire coin world. Because this wasn't just any 1995 penny. This was a Denver-minted Lincoln cent hiding a secret that turned pocket change into a story of $1 million. At first, the coin sat untouched for years. Forgotten in a jar. Passed over again and again. Dealers saw it and shrugged. Friends told him, "It's just a penny." And yet something felt different. The surfaces looked strange. The details felt off. Almost too sharp, too perfect, and yet wrong in a way only a trained eye would eventually understand. When this penny was finally examined under magnification, experts froze. This 1995 Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to exist in this form. The strike was abnormal. The metal flow was wrong. The minting pressure told a story of chaos inside the Denver Mint, a brief moment where machines misbehaved, dies clashed, and history accidentally changed. Because hidden within this humble penny were minting errors so rare that many experts believed they were impossible for this year. We're talking about dramatic double die features, razor-sharp doubling on Lincoln's profile, and microscopic design anomalies that shouldn't appear together. Yet here they were, all on one coin. When word spread, dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Phone calls exploded. Private offers poured in. One collector reportedly said, "I've waited my entire life to see something like this." Another whispered, "This is a once-in-a-generation penny." As bidding opened, expectations were modest. Tens of thousands. Maybe a few 100,000 if hype held. But then something unbelievable happened. Two elite collectors, both obsessed with modern-era coins, locked into a bidding war that seemed endless. When the hammer finally fell, the results sent shockwaves through the hobby. This small brown penny, minted in 1995, stamped with a simple D, had crossed into the realm of $1 million. In 1995, the U.S. Mint was pushing production hard. Demand was high. Speed mattered more than perfection. Dies wore down faster. Quality control slipped, just slightly, and in that tiny window, rare errors escaped. Example shows strong doubling in places nearly everyone ignores. The date. The letters in Liberty. The designer's initials. Under normal light, you'd miss it. Under magnification, it jumps out like a ghost image, clear, bold, undeniable. Some versions also show off metal strikes, planchet irregularities, or unusual surface textures that suggest experimental or transitional minting conditions. These aren't scratches. These aren't damage. These are fingerprints of a mistake that should never have left the mint. Some experts initially refused to believe it was real. Others demanded repeat testing, metallurgical analysis, die state reconstruction. But every test confirmed the same thing. This coin was authentic. And it was extraordinary, because the Denver Mint didn't strike one coin like this. Errors happen in batches. Which means somewhere, in a drawer, a jar, a forgotten roll, another 1995 penny could be hiding the same secret. After the sale, prices across the market shifted overnight. Dealers began paying insane premiums just to examine 1995 pennies. Collectors started pulling coins from circulation like treasure hunters chasing a legend. Online forums exploded with photos, arguments, hope, and heartbreak. And then, one ordinary woman checking change at her kitchen table found something that made her hands shake. If you want to know whether your 1995 Lincoln penny could be worth $1 million, you need to know exactly what to look for, and exactly what mistakes to avoid. First, check the mint mark. It must be a clear D under the date. No D, no jackpot. Then examine the date closely. Look for strong doubling, especially on the 1 and 9. Not machine doubling. Not flat shadowing. True double die separation, rounded, raised, and distinct. Next, inspect Liberty. On high-value examples, the letters appear doubled, almost vibrating when tilted under light. Many people miss this because they don't use magnification. A 10x loop can change your life. Now look at Lincoln's eye, beard, and jawline. Some of the most valuable pieces show doubling so sharp it looks like Lincoln has a twin hiding behind him. Never clean it. Never polish it. Never scrub it. One swipe can turn $1 million into 1 cent. Condition matters. Original surfaces. Natural color. No damage. No smoothing. The closer it is to mint state, the higher the stakes. Many people convince themselves they've found it. Very few actually have. Authentication is everything. Professional grading can separate dreams from reality. But instead, it shook the entire coin world and reached nearly $1 million. One ordinary afternoon, a man emptied his pocket change onto a kitchen table, not knowing that a single penny among them was about to change his life forever. It looked normal. It felt normal. But this tiny piece of copper was hiding a secret that collectors spend their entire lives searching for. What if I told you that the 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans have held, could be worth up to $1.2 million? Not because it's flashy. Not because it's gold. But because of what went wrong the day it was made. In 1967, the United States Mint was under pressure like never before. Coin shortages were everywhere. People were hoarding coins, melting them down, and pulling them out of circulation. To stop the chaos, the Mint made a historic decision. They removed all mint marks from coins. No D. No S. No identifying letter at all. Just raw production at full speed. Machines ran non-stop. Dies wore down. Quality control slipped. Coins that never should have left the mint quietly escaped into circulation, mixed in with everyday pocket change. At the time, nobody noticed. These pennies were spent on coffee, groceries, and gas. They were dropped into jars, couch cushions, and glove compartments. One penny looked sharper than it should. Another had strange doubling where it didn't belong. A third had metal characteristics that didn't match any official record. And when experts took a closer look, the truth stunned everyone. Some 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies were struck with dramatic doubled dies, especially on Lincoln's date, his profile, and the word liberty. Others showed rare off-metal compositions, planchet errors, or strike anomalies so extreme that seasoned dealers couldn't believe they were real. A pristine example surfaced at a private auction. Certified. Verified. Authenticated beyond any doubt. When bidding opened, collectors leaned forward in their seats. When it crossed 6 figures, phones started ringing. When it kept climbing, people realized this wasn't just another rare penny. The final price sent shockwaves through the hobby. This humble 1967 penny sold for a figure approaching $1 million, and suddenly, collectors everywhere began tearing through old jars and rolls, desperate to see if they had missed the same miracle. Dealers were shocked. Longtime experts admitted they had underestimated the coin for decades. And stories began to emerge. One man finding a suspicious penny in his late father's collection, another discovering one while rolling coins from a bank. But what makes this coin truly special isn't just rarity, it's condition. A worn 1967 penny is common. But a flawless example, struck with a major mint error, preserved for decades without damage, that's where the value explodes. Collectors hunt for strong doubling in the date 1967, especially the numbers appearing thick, shadowed, or slightly offset. They examine Lincoln's profile, looking at his eye, beard, and jawline for doubled contours. They study liberty and I in God we trust, searching for separation that proves a true doubled die, not machine damage. The metal itself matters too. Some rare examples show incorrect planchets, abnormal weight, or unusual coloration, clues that something went wrong before the strike even happened. A circulated error might be worth thousands. But a near-perfect specimen, graded MS-67 or higher, can push into life-changing territory. That's where the $1 million conversation begins. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many of these pennies had been ignored for decades. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on verified examples. Auction houses quietly contact owners when one surfaces, knowing the bidding war will be intense. Think about it. In 1967, pennies were everywhere. Kids carried them. Parents tossed them into jars. Families saved them without thinking. Some of those coins are still sitting untouched, forgotten in drawers and boxes. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and he almost never noticed it. As awareness grows, fewer undiscovered examples remain. Each year, more are found, certified, and locked away in collections. The chance of finding one shrinks, but it's not gone. 1967, with absolutely no mint mark under the date. Check the condition carefully. Scratches, wear, or corrosion can dramatically reduce value. Use magnification to look for true doubled die characteristics, not flat or smeared doubling. Weigh the coin if possible and compare it to standard specifications. And never clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. If you think you've found something unusual, professional authentication is essential. One wrong assumption can cost you everything. One correct one can change your life. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, it's known to be worth over $1 million. Imagine that. Something you might overlook in your pocket change could actually hold a life-changing fortune. Today, we're diving into the story of one of the rarest Lincoln pennies ever minted, the 1972 D, a coin that turned ordinary collectors into millionaires overnight. Most people never notice it. They pass it by, thinking it's just another penny. But collectors who know the secret have been racing to find every surviving example, and the stakes have never been higher. What makes this coin so extraordinary isn't just the year or the mint mark, it's a tiny, almost invisible minting error that transforms a simple copper disc into a piece of history worth up to $1.30 million. In 1972, the U.S. Mint was producing Lincoln pennies at a staggering scale. Millions were struck in Denver, and almost all were ordinary. But among them, a handful emerged with a peculiar doubling of the date and the D mint mark, subtle, barely noticeable, yet unmistakable to an experienced eye. This small anomaly is what collectors call the double-dyed verse, a mistake that, at the time, went completely unnoticed. Imagine a coin that slipped past the most sophisticated quality controls, only to become a treasure decades later. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins appeared in an auction in the early 2000s. One man, a casual collector, discovered it tucked in a roll of change he had forgotten about. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sold it for $1.2 million, a number so high it seemed unreal for a 1-cent coin. Dealers were scrambling, searching through old coin rolls, banks, and even family collections, trying to find more of these rare misprints. But this isn't just a story of luck. It's a story of attention to detail. The doubling is subtle. The numbers on the date appear slightly shadowed, a tiny echo that most people completely miss. The D mint mark shows the same ghostly duplication. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he knew exactly what to look for. If you glance at it casually, it's invisible. But with the right knowledge, it's undeniable. And the story only gets more dramatic. Auctions have repeatedly shattered expectations for this coin. In 2018, a pristine 1972 D double-die penny fetched $1.3 million, and experts say there may only be a few dozen surviving in perfect condition. Some have been lost, some hidden in drawers for decades, and some are circulating in circulation without anyone knowing their value. One slip, one overlooked coin, could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. Here's the thing. Most people can hold this penny without even realizing they have a fortune in their hand. But experts know exactly how to identify it. Look closely at the numbers on the date. If you see any doubling, especially on the 7 and the 2, and the D mint mark appears doubled as well, congratulations, you may be holding one of the rarest pennies in existence. Don't mistake a worn coin for a valuable one. Condition is key. A crisp, clear doubling is what commands million-dollar prices. But what happened next stunned the entire coin community. Counterfeiters started targeting these coins. Replicas appeared in online auctions, and even seasoned collectors had to double-check their finds. It became a race not just to find the coin, but to authenticate it. Professional grading became essential, and only coins certified by the top grading services could reach those staggering prices. Even more shocking, some collectors report finding 2 of these pennies in the same batch of change. Imagine discovering $1 million coin, and then finding a second one, literally sitting in the same pocket change roll. It's almost unimaginable, yet history tells us it has happened. These moments have fueled legends in the numismatic world. Dealers now offer tens of thousands of dollars for the chance to examine old collections, searching for that hidden 1972 D dot, and here's the secret most people overlook: the coin doesn't have to be flawless to be valuable. Slight wear can still command six-figure prices, and the very rare uncirculated versions. That's where the million-dollar magic happens. Every scratch, every mark is carefully examined by experts to ensure it hasn't been altered. Even experienced collectors miss subtle clues, which is why so many of these coins remain undiscovered. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling is so subtle that it can only be confirmed under magnification. You need a keen eye and patience, because even the slightest misjudgment can make a huge difference in value. Collectors have spent hours examining coins under microscopes, their hearts racing as they identify a potential treasure. And let's not forget the emotional thrill. Imagine holding this penny, knowing it could change your life. Dealers would pay almost anything for it. Entire families have found hidden fortunes in old coin collections, and all because someone took the time to look. This isn't just a coin, it's a story, a mystery, and a key to wealth. So how do you know if your 1972 D penny is the real deal? First, examine the date and mint mark closely for doubling. Next, check the overall condition. Sharp, clean edges and a crisp finish increase value dramatically. Avoid coins with obvious wear or scratches, and always get professional authentication before considering any sale. Even minor details can drastically affect the final price. Collectors worldwide are still hunting for these coins. Banks, old piggy banks, and forgotten rolls and drawers may all hold the next millionaire's discovery. Dealers are literally combing through millions of pennies in the hope of finding another 1972 D. And while many people toss their pennies without a second thought, a patient collector who knows the signs could uncover a treasure that others have overlooked for decades. And here's the most incredible part: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a coin that you might have ignored for years could be the key to changing your life forever. The thrill, the mystery, the chance to be the next collector to hold a piece of history in your hand, it's all real. Don't overlook it, because million-dollar miracles are hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eye to find them. The 1972 D Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a legend, a treasure, and a testament to the power of curiosity, patience, and attention to detail. For those who recognize its secrets, the reward isn't just money. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a story to tell, and the chance to hold history in your hands. One look, one careful examination, and you could hold a piece of the past that is valued like no other, a fortune in copper, hiding in plain sight. Imagine holding a small, copper penny in your hand, the kind you usually ignore, the kind that jingles with your spare change. Now imagine that this tiny, ordinary coin could transform your life forever. This isn't just any penny. It's the 1991 D Lincoln penny, hiding a secret that collectors have been chasing for decades. It all started in the United States Mint, where thousands of pennies rolled off the presses every day, each stamped with the familiar Lincoln face. But in 1991, something extraordinary happened. A rare minting error occurred, so subtle, so precise, that the vast majority of people would never notice it. One small detail on this coin makes it worth up to $1.4 million, and it's this hidden imperfection that collectors are willing to pay fortunes for. Some call it a miracle of chance, others call it destiny. One man found this coin buried among hundreds of ordinary pennies in his wallet. At first glance, it looked completely normal. But the way the light hit it, the depth of the mint mark, and the unusual spacing of the date whispered a secret only the sharpest eyes could detect. This tiny penny became $1 million miracle, and the story would shock the entire coin world. But what happened next stunned everyone. News of the coin spread like wildfire through collectors' circles. Dealers were scrambling, auctions were heating up, and suddenly, the unassuming 1991 D penny became a legend. People who once dismissed pennies as worthless change were now combing their drawers, wallets, and old coin collections, hoping to stumble upon their own hidden treasure. The value of this penny isn't random, it comes from a rare minting error that almost no one knows how to spot. Most collectors would overlook it, missing the precise doubling of the D mint mark, the subtle variations in the copper's shine, and the slight misalignment that sets it apart from every other 1991 penny. These minute details are why this coin can command millions at auction. One story that collectors still whisper about involves an elderly woman who discovered this penny in a shoebox under her bed. She thought it was just an ordinary coin she had saved from her childhood. When an expert examined it, jaws dropped. That single penny had the potential to change her life overnight. Dealers offered astronomical sums, but the true treasure wasn't just the money, it was the thrill, the history, and the undeniable rarity of holding something so extraordinary. Every few minutes, another shocking twist emerges in this story. Some coins from 1991 were almost destroyed during circulation, others were lost in rolls, and a handful survived, tucked away in albums and drawers, waiting for someone to notice. Collectors who understand the subtle indicators of value know that this penny is more than just metal, it's a story frozen in time, a chance to own a piece of history worth over $1 million. This coin's journey isn't just about numbers. It's about the emotional roller coaster collectors experience when they realize what they've found. The excitement, the disbelief, the hope of a life-changing discovery, it's all wrapped up in this tiny, copper circle. Imagine the tension, holding a coin that could turn decades of mundane savings into an extraordinary fortune. And yet, even with its incredible story, most people will never recognize it. They won't notice the small double D, the sharpness of the date, the subtle variations in the minting process. But those who do, the savvy, the patient, the observant, are the ones who walk away with million-dollar treasures. Collectors were shocked when this penny first surfaced in auction catalogs. Some couldn't believe that a coin minted in 1991 could reach such astronomical values. But the truth is, errors like this are incredibly rare. This coin isn't just a collector's item, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a secret hidden in plain sight among ordinary change. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on every potential 1991 penny they can find. Auctions have become battlegrounds of excitement and anticipation, with bids climbing higher and higher, fueled by the story, the rarity, and the chance to own a piece of numismatic history. The allure isn't just in the money, it's in the legend, the mystery, and the fact that one small mistake at the mint can create something priceless. So, how can you tell if the penny in your drawer is this life-changing coin? Look carefully at the D mint mark. Check the depth, the shape, and the alignment of the date. Examine the copper carefully under a strong light. Compare it to a standard 1991 penny. This is where most collectors fail. They don't take the time to notice the subtle but unmistakable signs of rarity. Remember, this isn't a coin that shouts its value. Its worth is hidden, waiting for someone perceptive enough to discover it. It's the double mint mark, the unique spacing, the unusual reflections of the copper. These tiny details can mean the difference between ordinary change and a life-altering treasure. And here's the truth that keeps collectors up at night. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, unnoticed, undervalued, waiting for you to recognize it. A single coin, minted decades ago, could suddenly be worth over $1 million. The stories, the auctions, the discoveries, they all point to one thing: never underestimate the ordinary. The 1991 Lincoln penny is proof that hidden wealth can be closer than you think, that history is packed in the smallest details, and that patience, curiosity, and sharp eyes can turn ordinary coins into fortunes. So take another look at your coins. Examine every penny. One might just hold the secret to $1 million revelation. Remember, collectors around the world are hunting for it, experts are analyzing it, and the opportunity is rare and fleeting. And now, armed with the knowledge of what to look for, you could be the one to uncover the ultimate treasure.